At a time when we are awash in anonymous elites who run more and more of the world, folks like a hedge fund and private equity folks, not the private equity folks with a conscience who are here tonight, but that with which we differentiate them. At a time when folks are making anonymous contributions to 501c4s that are going to determine who rules this country, and we don't even know who those folks are. At a moment like this, Reuters made a signal contribution to de-anonymizing one of the most unseen elites that exist in this country, and that is the United States Supreme Court Bar. In a brilliant series of web articles and features, Joan Biskupic, Janet Roberts, and John Shiffman, with the help of, as I could count it at the end, as they roll the credits, 43 other Reuters staffers, including statisticians, data analysts, designers, and editors, all the result of a commitment of major resources to this important and, other than this, unreported topic. These three journalists documented a rather startling fact. They noted there were 17,000 attorneys who authored appeals to the Supreme Court between 2004 and 2012. They authored 10,300 appeals, but less than 1% of these attorneys, actually just 66 attorneys, accounted for 43% of all the cases that the court accepted and heard. Now, having the names of these 66 attorneys on the appeals obviously greatly increased the probability of these cases reaching the court. These were top-of-the-line attorneys, not surprisingly. They included some former Solicitor Generals and people who had worked in the Solicitor General's office. They included over 30 former clerks of Supreme Court justices, which is fine, but one of the problems here is that the clients of these 66 attorneys were anything but a representative sample of litigants or a representative sample of Americans. Nearly 80% of these attorneys basically just represented corporations. And most of them, most of the time, simply will not take cases that might threaten the interests of their corporation clients, the kind of cases that are filed by workers or consumers or on behalf of the environment. The series is called The Echo Chamber because, well, at a time when we have the most pro-business, and in some ways, I would say, anti-human court we have had in a very long time, there's a screening process that now filters the cases coming before this most pro-corporate of courts, and the screening process favors de facto these pro-corporate attorneys. Joan and Janet and John performed exhaustive statistical analysis. They dug into really previously unreported business practices of America's leading law firms. And Joan interviewed 8 of the 9 Supreme Court justices who, amazingly, from my point of view, were willing to talk on the record about the unrepresentative sample of attorneys who actually come before the Supreme Court. For this comprehensive and penetrating analysis of this hitherto undiscovered dimension of elite domination, and for answering a question that the rest of us in the U.S. journalistic community hadn't even thought of asking, the Hillman Award for Web Journalism goes to Joan and Janet and John of Reuters. Congratulations.
Thank you all. I want to speak on behalf of the three of us and truly equally on the part of the three of us and maybe throw in some of those 43 other people at the end. I want to, John, Janet, and I really, it's amazing that Thomson Reuters allowed 3 senior reporters almost 2 years' time and the kind of resources that's required to work on this. So I want to first salute our bosses and editors and just name a couple, and then I want to say something about the Supreme Court that people might not recognize. First, I was assisted by editors Amy Stevens and Howard Goller, Janet Roberts, who handled all the data, her boss Mo Tannum contributed significantly. And for John, who was the one who really penetrated the corporate emphasis, it was Blake Morrison and then Mike Williams who handled it all. I felt like this was a very distinctly Reuters project because we used so much of Westlaw's materials and were able to really look at the legal community that we had access to through the entire Thomson Reuters empire. I really want to thank the HIllman for recognizing this. So many people don't get what the Supreme Court does. It's a place where everyone knows his or her place, and if you go up there, you find that most of the people who are upstairs near the Great Hall and the Supreme Court chamber tend to not to look like America. The people who look like America are on the ground floor doing more of the menial tasks. The people upstairs in the bar section tend to be overwhelmingly white and male, even to this day, and that was what got us started on this project. It seemed like the people who were repeatedly before the justices, both in the petitions that launch appeals and then also in the oral arguments, that group seemed to be contracting. Right now we have a Supreme Court that's more diverse than ever. We have the first African American, we have the second African American, we have the first Hispanic, we have 3 women, we have 3 Jewish justices, 6 Catholics, no Protestants, but at the same time, the bar is getting much more whiter and maler. So to even get access to what they do there was a real feat, and I am so thankful for all the data crunching that went with it. The other thing I want to say about the fact that the HIllman Foundation recognized this is that the justices and many of the lawyers, after we ran the series, said, so what's new? What really is new here? Of course, this is an elite institution. Of course, we need elite people arguing before us. And Justices Kagan and Scalia, soon after the stories ran, were asked publicly about it and said, you know, aren't you concerned? And they said, no, we're not concerned. And this was in December. And then in January, justices were asked again, and they said they weren't concerned. But the thing is, they kept talking about it, and the lawyers kept talking about it. And last night, I happened to be in Wisconsin for the 7th Circuit Conference, an annual conference where Justice Kagan was there speaking. And there she was before 400 lawyers and many, many judges. And with her, Xeroxed, was the echo chamber project. And she got up and she said, now, you know, Joan Biskupic and others at Reuters had written about this. She wanted to at least salute the series in a way, but she also wanted to debunk some of the theories behind it and say, this is the way it's supposed to be. The Supreme Court is an elite place, and of course we're going to have these kinds of elite lawyers. And she said, and we haven't gotten too comfy with these people. And I love that she even used the word comfy, because that is frankly the right word. And finally, though, when I got up, I said, well, you know, it's true that you might feel that way, but I think the statistics speak for themselves. Of the 66 lawyers who you just saw up there in that graphic, all but 3 of them were white, and all but 8 of them were men. So thank you very much.